Today we're looking at the top nuclear UFO incidents. The Elizondo said that while they were at ATIP, they suspected that UFOs were related to nuclear sites. And Representative Gallagher even asked at one of the UFO hearings about Robert Salas. So let's check out the top nuclear weapon UFO incidents. Thanks for being here.
Chris Lehto. Welcome to LehtoFiles.
Our first case takes us back to 1964. Dr. Robert Jacobs was a first lieutenant in the United States Air Force. He was tasked with filming missile tests. That was his job. During one such test at Vandenberg Air Force Base, Jacobs and his team captured something extraordinary on film. A UFO appeared and seemed to shoot 4 beams of light at a dummy warhead, causing it to malfunction. So despite official denials, Jacobs has consistently spoken about what he witnessed that day for many decades. Let's check this out. Interesting video thanks to Eyes on Cinema.
Optical instrumentation at Vandenberg Air Force Base from 1963 to 66.
That's
our job
California?
was to photograph. That's California, so right there on the coast.
Right.
And our job was to photograph with high-speed instrumentation every missile launched from Vandenberg going down the test range. They wanted to find out if we could figure out a place to put a telescope where we could get a side view of the missile so that we could see all 3 stages of powered flight. So I went up to Big Sur, California, up on a U.S. Forest Service road on Anderson Peak, and I installed a telescopic sight up there. The Air Force flew in a huge catadioptric telescope from the Cape. It was built by Dr. Walter Manning at the Boston University. They put the telescope up there, and with that thing, which had a focal length of 2,500 inches, we photographed an Atlas missile raising up out of the fog cover and flying downrange. We got all 3 stages of powered flight, and as the dummy warhead and the package flew on down range, we were all celebrating the fact that we had seen a thing and accomplished the mission. When I got back to the base with the film the next day, I was called into the office of Major Florence J. Mansman, and there were 3 people in gray suits standing in there. There was a 16mm camera and a screen set up. Major Mansman said, "Lieutenant, sit down and watch this." And he turned down the lights, turned on the camera on the projector, and the film came on. And I recognized it as the film that we'd shot at Big Sur the previous day. Toward the end of the flight, I was looking at Major Mansman saying, "Pretty good stuff, huh, sir?" And suddenly he said, "Just watch this." And as I watched, the warhead, the dummy warhead, the chaff that was put out in front of it as a decoy to deflect the Russian anti-missile tracking radar. But everything was flying along, and suddenly we watched that stage burn out. We watched the second stage burn out. We watched the third stage burn out. And into the frame came something else. It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead, which is represented by my thumb here. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, and then this thing flies up like this. Meanwhile, we're all going like this, fires another beam of light, goes around like this, we're going like this, fires another beam of light, goes down like this, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. Now, I saw that. I don't give a goddamn what anybody else says about it. I saw that on film. Phil Klass can kiss my ass. He
wasn't there. Okay, I've seen this video online, or one that looks similar to it. People saying, hey, here is the actual video. I've seen it online. And it's not the video, because if you notice in the simulation that I just showed, it's the warhead. And in the video that's been posted online, I think it was just a simulation, it shows the whole stage, right? It's still boosting. So actually, I don't think that is the video. If you've seen one that looks like this online, I don't think the actual video, the original film, has been released on the internet.
The same direction this stuff was flying at about 8,000 miles an hour. An object came into the frame, shot a beam of light at the warhead, flew up to the top, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew around the direction it was flying, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew down, shot another beam of light at the warhead, and flew out the same way it came in.
Well, I don't understand. Why
said,
didn't you see this when you were shooting it?
Well, it was 600 to 800 miles away from us.
Oh, I got you.
The
And
only
they
reason- the only thing
confiscated,
to
they
see it was-
confiscated.
Well, first of all, the Major Mansman said to me, "What was that? Were you guys screwing around up there?" I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Then tell me what that was." And I said, "We got a UFO." And he said, "Lieutenant, you are never to speak of this again. As far as you're concerned, this didn't happen."
I've done detailed videos on all these cases, links in the description if you want to get more information. So Mansman later did actually confirm it, right? Unfortunately, he passed, but this is from Bob Salas's conference on ICBMs and nukes on ICBMs and UFOs. We'll cover Bob Salas's next. But this was a confirmation by Major Mansman. He said, "We knew the missile nose cone size, but could not compare since we did not know how far from the missile the object was from the missile at time of beam release." Seems like you could get a basic understanding, though. The shape was classic disc. The center seemed to be a raised bubble. Not sure any ports or slits could be seen, but was stationary or moving slightly, floating over the entire lower saucer shape, which was glowing and seemed to be rotating slowly at the point of beam release. That's amazing. So Jacob says like two saucers with a golf ball on top. This Mansman calls it that raised bubble that was moving slightly, floating over the entire lower saucer shape, which was glowing and seemed to be rotating slowly at the point of beam release. And he said that's where the beam actually shot from, was the base of that raised area on top. That's according to Jacobs. So Mansman, who you just heard say, "You are never to speak of this again," came out and said no, he supported it. So you have confirmation by two officers, right? And Jacobs is still saying it totally happened, and he's very forceful about it. He went through a lot of hell for it. Very interesting story, amazing story, really. So let's move on. Okay, our next case takes us 1967 with the Malmstrom Air Force Base incident. Nick Pope has investigated this a few times. Captain Robert Salas, Bob Salas, was on duty when reports of a glowing red object hovering outside the base's front gate came in. It was a phone call. He's down in the missile silo, 60 feet below ground. He gets a phone call from the front gate, terrified, saying that there is a large red object, a hovering sphere, moving around, and the guards at the front gate sounded terrified, notifying him that something crazy is going on. So Bob goes and wakes up his commanding officer, right? Wakes him up. And then all of a sudden, the 10 missiles that they're monitoring go from green to red. So they all go offline at basically the same time. Let's hear Bob explain it here on Martin Willis's live UFO podcast show.
And whistles going off, and the lights on our control panel were turning from green to red, meaning no-go. They could not be launched. I went through our procedures and had a way of determining what the problem was. And all the missiles were reading out a guidance and control system failure. So without proper guidance, the missiles could not be launched. We also had two launch facilities that had incursion lights. In other words, possibility of security breach at two of the launch facilities. So I had to call back and send guards. First, of course, I asked if the object was still up there. He said no, it had just flown off. But the object was up there when these missiles were disabled. So I ordered them out to these two facilities where we had these security lights, and they reported back to my commander that actually reported back to the security guard that they'd seen the objects again over the launch facilities. So,
okay, again, link to the full videos in the description if you want to see it. But look at that door behind me there. That is a very thick door, and these are what is required to shield these missiles, right? They're designed to be shielded against nuclear missile attacks, which have severe EMPs. So the guidance systems are knocked off. I talk in this video actually on speculation how that could possibly be through intense electromagnetic fields that can somehow knock off an INS, an inertial navigation system, of these rockets once the guidance is off, because they're individual systems, right? These are individually shielded rockets. So you shouldn't be able to just knock out all of them at the same time, right? They're not linked. So amazing. Okay, Salas also says that the red large orb object was confirmed at the same time that the missiles went offline. And then the incursions at the other two facilities, so two other facilities, he called to them and they said that yes, they had also seen the object. So how many people there, witnesses, do we have seeing the object? And then you have incursion systems, so detection through amazingly thick shielded doors and basically large giant Faraday cages designed to shield these missiles from any sort of electromagnetic interference, knocks them all offline. So many witnesses, all related to nuclear weapons here and these giant red orbs. Thanks to Salas, he's still having conferences every 5 years in DC and speaking about this. Okay, now we move on to 1977, Mario Woods and the Ellsworth Air Force Base incident. So Woods was a security guard of Nuke's at the base when he reported seeing a giant orb. This time, I believe it was red as well, over a nuclear missile silo. The object was described as a bright, giant, hovering sphere, much larger than a Walmart or even a super Walmart, he said. Despite facing skepticism, Woods has shared his story in various interviews, detailing his encounter, including this long, lengthy, detailed interview on my channel. So check out this video, again, link in the description if you want to hear the full accounts. But look at the size of this thing. Said it was giant, basically bigger than the entire launch facility as he shows up in his vehicle. Mario explained it as well on the History Channel. He arrives in an F-150 truck with his team lead, Michael Johnson, who he basically just met. They arrive and see this giant object. They have their weapons. And he says what's so strange is that Michael Johnson becomes essentially frozen, unmoving, looks over, hey, Michael, what's going on? And Michael does not move. Black, crazy-looking drone object, spherical, appears in front of the truck, seems to phase around, move around right over the hood of the truck. And then Mario says he looks out his right window. After air is sucked out of the vehicle, he says, please help. Looks out his right window and sees 4 aliens. So 3 shorter aliens like this. They're in suits. One's got a little wand with a glowing gold material here. And then there's a bigger one in the back. Look like a different species with a chest plate, some sort of glowing chest plate there. Sees this out the window and then he blacks out. He wakes up 4 hours later, right? And the truck has been literally transported. He's 5 miles away, right at the base of a dam. Truck has been moved. They finally radio a call. He wakes up. They direction find to his location. Michael Johnson's still frozen to the wheel. Right? He's not talking or anything, just in this frozen catatonic state. Mario explains they show up finally. How'd you get here? He says, I don't know. Right? I don't know how I got here. And from there, he's basically treated to a lot of uncomfortable exams. He had burn marks, biological effects, and he had no results back on any of his tests from the military. Again, you want to hear the full account. Mario goes through it in detail with this interview, link in the description. Just unbelievable case. Finally, we fast forward to 1980 and the Rendlesham Forest incident, often referred to as Britain's Roswell. December 1980, the case involved multiple U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge, again near a base where they host nuclear weapons. Over the course of several nights, they reported seeing strange lights at Charles Halt. He gives an amazing interview here with Ross Coulthart. Again, link in the description. He saw a strange red light about the size of a football. It split into multiple white objects and then shot beams of light down 10 feet away from him. they went and measured where Jim Penniston said the craft landed, and he actually touched it. Charles Halt, a colonel, deputy commander of the base, basically testifies that there were impressions in the ground, spherical impressions that they got casts of, a symmetrical triangle orientation. And actually they did radiology readings. There were Geiger counters out there, and they found radiation around the site and on the sides of the trees pointed this direction, right? There was radiation here, but not on the backside of the trees. So they had ground effects, they got radiation measurements. Supposedly there's pictures of the craft that Jim Penniston took. And Charles Halt saw them shoot light beams down from the sky near him. At the time he called lasers. The lasers weren't real known there, but it was coherent light, so collated light. And one of the most compelling pieces of evidence is an audio recording made by Colonel Charles Halt during the encounter. So he always took audio notes. The incident remains one of the most well-documented UFO sightings in history. I've covered it multiple times on this channel, including an interview with Gary Hesseltine. He's a retired police detective. He did an exhaustive study into Rendlesham Forest incident and found a ton of new information. He also talked to one of the nuclear guards, the security guards. And you can see the interview again. There's interviews online of the actual security guard saying that he saw beams of light seem to be searching down into the nuclear storage area, so where they're actually storing the nuclear weapons. Very similar to what Mario Woods was saying. It's a different craft, though. It wasn't your giant spherical orb, right? It was something else, but shooting down these collated laser beams. So multiple witnesses of that, including Charles Halt. He authored the famous Halt Memo. And why would he lie? A colonel in the Air Force, now a retired colonel, he was the deputy base commander. That's also just an amazing case. So these cases offer just a glimpse into the mystery of UFOs and nukes. As Llewellyn Zonda said, they've known that UFOs are interested in nuclear sites. Is it just nuclear weapon sites? You also see them around submarines. You hear cases of them being around ships, nuclear-powered ships, such as the Nimitz. Is this one reason why the military does not want to say anything about this, the Pentagon? Because it happens to be related to nuclear weapons. We have so many military officers, credible people, speaking out about this. Just seems like, why would they lie? You know, what benefit do they have in lying about this? Seems like none, and very credible accounts. Quite interesting. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. It really helps, and it's free. Consider subscribing to get future notifications of when I release videos. And you might like this video recommended by YouTube just for you. If you want to support the channel, join these great people over here, get exclusive bonus content, then click this button here, patreon.com/chrislehto, or become a YouTube member. If you want to continue the discussion, go to UAPSociety Discord. Links are all in the description. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.